So the first moment to think through is Jesus' trial. It's happening in the night straight after his arrest. Not a normal trial by any means, because there was no time for preparation by anyone. It just hurriedly happened. And yet the high priests were able to bring along all their own witnesses. It clearly wasn't a trial that was meant to be fair. It wasn't a trial where there was any chance of any other verdict than guilty. The Pharisees were just looking for a reason to convict Jesus. So he's there, he's dragged before the high priests and the council, and he's questioned. And many witnesses are brought before him. But as with Jewish tradition, a witness's testimony didn't count unless two of them agreed, and none of them could agree. No one could bring a consistent charge against Jesus. Until towards the end of the trial, they managed to find two that could agree that Jesus had said that he was going to knock down and rebuild the temple in 3 days. Words he had said not long ago, but words they had clearly misunderstood as to what he meant. It's after this that he's asked the question, the most important question: are you the Messiah? And he answers, you have said so. But from now on you will see the Son of Man at the right hand of power. The priests didn't understand him. They were just looking for a reason to convict him. And they found it. Blasphemy. Blasphemy was the charge they levied against him. How dare he say he is the Son of God? And yet it was true. So that was it. They convicted Jesus and sentenced him to death, but it was a sentence they had no authority to carry out. They took their turns to strike him and to humiliate him. But knowing that they couldn't convict him, they took him away to see Pilate. While Jesus' trial was going on, Peter, possibly the most faithful of disciples, had followed him. Peter, who was his rock, had made his way along to where the high priests were trying Jesus. And he was stood outside listening and trying to see what was happening. And it's while he was there, he was first challenged by a servant girl, coming up to him, catching him probably off guard, saying, aren't you one of the men who was with Jesus? Peter says, no, I wasn't with him. No, leave me alone. Dismissing her, sending her on her way. Moving closer into the porch, a second servant comes and sees Peter and says to him, aren't you one of Jesus' friends? Again, no, he denies it. Leave me alone, I'm not one of Jesus' followers. And then a group of bystanders corner Peter and say, aren't you one of his friends, one of his followers? Aren't you with him? Peter swears an oath. No, I promise you, I am not Jesus' follower. It's at that very moment a cock crows, and Peter remembers Jesus' words from earlier, that he will deny him 3 times. Peter remembers that when Jesus said that, he said, no, Lord, no, I will never deny you. I will always be there. And he realizes exactly what he's done. He's denied Jesus. Heartbroken, Peter leaves, knowing that Jesus was right all this time, feeling so guilty about what he has said. After the day breaks and the new day begins, the focus of our story moves on to Judas. And Judas, in the light of day, realizing what he has done, feeling the weight of his betrayal, decides to repent. And he takes the money that he's been given by the high priests and he takes it back to the temple and he tries to return it to them. But they don't want it. They never wanted the money. They wanted Jesus. And feeling his guilt, Judas leaves the money there and runs away. But the priests, recognizing that it's blood money, weren't willing to accept it either. So they then go away and use that money rather than putting it into the temple's treasury. They use it to buy a field, the potter's field it's called. And it's a field that is used for the burial of foreigners, those who don't belong in Jerusalem. And it's a bit strange that Matthew includes this in his account. But Matthew does this because he's recognizing that it's fulfillment of prophecy from Jeremiah. Fulfillment that the blood of the Messiah will be used to pay for this field. Sadly, feeling his guilt, knowing the weight of what he's done, Judas goes away and takes his own life. I cannot guess or understand how much pain Judas may have been feeling, knowing what he has done. But there's no turning back. His betrayal was complete. So now, into the morning, Jesus' trial begins before Pilate. He's brought there by the high priests, by Caiaphas, and they are there to see whether he should be put to death. Pilate questions him. These men are accusing you of being the king of the Jews. They are accusing you of blasphemy. They are seeking your death. Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answers, you say so. Pilate continues to hear the evidence from Jesus' accusers, hearing the many reasons I'm sure that they think of as to why he should be killed. And he looks to Jesus to defend himself, but Jesus just says nothing. Jesus doesn't put up a fight. Jesus doesn't try and stop what's occurring because he knows, sadly, it's necessary. The lack of answers leaves Pilate completely amazed and not sure what to do. So Pilate thinks of a way out of this situation. He knows that because of the Passover feast, that there is a tradition where he would normally choose a prisoner to be released. Being a ruler in an unruly and difficult town that Jerusalem was, it was a way of keeping the people under control. So he presented before them two men, Jesus Christ and Jesus Barabbas. And he addresses the crowd, who do you want released? Both men were called Jesus. But the first was Jesus Christ. Christ meaning anointed or Messiah, the Jesus that we know, the Jesus that we owe so much to. The second man was Jesus Barabbas, a man who was arrested for rioting, for causing trouble, possibly murder. Barabbas simply means son of a man. So the choice was simple. The crowd were there to choose. Who do you want to save? Jesus, who is your Messiah, or Jesus, who is an ordinary man? But again, it wasn't a fair choice because the high priests had stirred up the crowd. The high priests had manipulated the whole situation from the beginning. And what was the crowd's answer? Save Barabbas. Pilate probably couldn't believe what he was hearing, but he saw no way out. And not wanting to stir up more trouble and to avoid any more issues, he literally washed his hands of the situation. He took his hands and he washed them before the crowd, saying, "This man's blood is not on my hands, it's on yours." And with that, he sent Jesus away to be executed.